Let's have a conversation.
What's happening, everybody? Good evening. Good evening. This is my BB Can 11 recap. It's not going to be a very long one because, as I've been saying on my other channel, I have a trip to Miami tomorrow for a big fitness event that's taking place on Saturday. Looking forward to that. It's going to be very challenging. Probably the biggest challenge of my life, fitness wise. I've done this particular competition, I want to say 4 times before, but none of those times were on sand. So that's going to be a huge difference running on sand versus running in a gym. Running on sand is much harder. And I didn't really practice on sand. I ran on the sand once. I planned to practice running on the sand, but it was so taxing that I was like, maybe this is one of those things that I'm just going to have to wing it and do when I get there. But I like to do challenging things that push me to my limits, and that's just what I do, and that's just what I'm going to do. And hopefully, in like less than 48 hours, I'm going to be having some triumphant glory story. Okay? And with that said, welcome to Big Brother. So I didn't do a recap yesterday. I did one on Tuesday. Today is Thursday. So yesterday was centered around Zach, and it seemed like some of the house was rallying against Zach, and it all seemed to start with Vanessa. And Vanessa got upset with Zach because Vanessa had an emotional moment when so Zach won the power veto. Sorry, I'm going all over the place. At the beginning, they had the power veto competition. Zach won the POV. We know that Zach wants Rob to go on the block at this point. This was yesterday's episode I'm referring to. Hope had a final against Zach, and Zach beat Hope in the final. And then Hope accused Vanessa of assisting Zach. And then Vanessa was crying about it. Let me jump into this comment. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I just was saying that I have a trip tomorrow. So therefore, I had to jump on and do this. It's probably going to be a pretty quick one. And spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen the episode yet. Okay, so yeah, Hope accused Vanessa of helping Zach to win this challenge where they had to fit the shapes and the pegs and all that. And Vanessa started crying, and then it showed Zach having a conversation with Santina. And Zach was basically saying, like, if Vanessa is this emotional, she should just go home. Like, I don't like this game is a tough game. And he said, like, in a really straightforward kind of way, you know, if you can't handle the game and you're getting emotional, you should go home. So it didn't really show where Vanessa heard this, but I guess at some point she heard him say that and she confronted him and she was upset. At some point, I might look at the digital daily just to see when that happened, or hopefully somebody on YouTube or somewhere summarized the digital daily so I can see it more in full. But the show version was Vanessa having a blow up on Zach and blowing up his game and telling everyone in the house, yelling to everyone in the house that he was going to put Rob up. Rob was in consideration for going home the previous week. I don't know where she got that from, but she hit it on the money. And now this casts a big shadow over Zach's game because even though a lot of people were thinking what she said out loud, nobody was saying it out loud. They were saying it in little rooms, whispering to each other individually in pairs, whatever. But this is the first time Zach's game was just thrown out in the open. And it's not the first time that something like that has happened. I even remember in the cookout season for BB23 USA, I forget who it was, but somebody was like, X is running the house. I think it was Claire. I think it was Claire that was like, X is clearly running the house, and if you keep him, he's gonna win the whole game or something to that effect. But it wasn't maybe quite as big as this one. I remember other BB situations where a house guest was called out, but I think this one was not just about him being a threat. It was like about him lying to everybody and being manipulative. That is what made this call out really damaging for Zach. Even though Zach was doing damage to himself on his own, that Vanessa call out, I feel like, did a lot in terms of making a lot of conversations happen and making Zach have to defend himself. So, kind of going into this episode, Jonathan, it showed that Jonathan wanted to save his boy Rob. The last episode, it showed him saying that Rob was like a brother to him. And he was saying he might volunteer to go on the block. He was crying. Uh, so it showed like a lot of different side conversations. That was great. Yeah, that definitely damaged him. It did. It did. So it showed like Dan and Kuzi were talking about Zach. Jonathan was talking to them. Santina was basically telling Rob, and who else was she talking to? I think Rob and John. And it showed yesterday she was talking to Dan. Basically, Santina's off the Zach train. Santina looks to be off of the Zach train and ready to move on from Zach. Which is good for her game, which is good for her, because I really didn't like that conversation that Zach was having with her last week and how he was like manipulating her decisions with the John Michael thing, and she's doing, and Zach was doing the same thing with Dan this week. So yes, he got his 2 targets out, but I believe that going forward, if Zach is not winning competitions, he has like three weeks. I give him 3 weeks maximum in this house if he's not winning competitions. I wouldn't be surprised if he's out any of the next 3 weeks. Zach strongly comes across as narcissistic to me, very narcissistic, and he's using emotional manipulation tactics on a lot of these people in the house, and he's trying to make it seem as if the moves that he's making for himself are the best move for them, and he seems to be convincing them. Let me tell y'all, I've dealt with narcissists in real life, and they're not as easy to get away from as you might think. Like on TV, it looks like, you know, why are they listening to him? It doesn't make any sense. But you'd be surprised at how many conversations he's probably having on the side, how much stuff he's planting in all these people's heads that we're not seeing. And yeah, it's tough. Those type of people can convince you of anything. Very emotional episode. I'm super proud of her too. Yeah, he gets win HOH this week. He's a huge target. If he doesn't win, he's public enemy number 1. And I feel like even Ty is, I know the conversations that everyone is having with Ty is making Ty like, well, the thing with Ty is I kind of feel like he might think that since Zach is always going to be a bigger target than him and Zach is on his side, it's like beneficial to have Zach in the house for a time. That might be what Ty is thinking. Again, This is a total guessing game because of the fact that I'm not seeing live feeds. I hate the fact that I'm sitting here guessing so much, but it just is what it is. I'm not committed to watching digital dailies. It showed Vanessa and Zach have a conversation where they kind of make up, but I think the damage has already been done. And yeah, I believe Zach. I do believe Zach when he was apologizing, but I also think that he thought it was best for his game to make sure that there's not a tension between him and Vanessa, because Vanessa obviously showed that she's not scared to stand against him. We didn't see much Shania in this episode. Who else? I think that's everybody. Oh yeah, Claudia was there, but they didn't show too much Claudia in this episode. So, anyways, Jonathan went around and campaigned and did his best along with Roberto to try to keep Roberto in the game. Roberto made his speech for staying, his eviction speech for staying, and he alluded to the fact that Zach was manipulating and controlling everybody. Everyone knew who he was talking about. And Roberto ended up going with a 7-4 vote. So let me see. I think the people who voted to keep Rob, I might not remember all of them, but I know Jonathan did, Santina did, Vanessa. I can't remember the fourth vote. I can't remember who the fourth vote was to keep Rob, but there was 4 people who voted to keep Rob and 7 who voted to send him home. He went home. Some of the girls, like those girls that were in the Girls Alliance, were like, let the guys take shots at each other. You know what? They're not wrong. The girls are not wrong, because if Roberto is gone, right? Oh, Hope was the other one. Thank you, Shanna. The ladies are not wrong, because if you think about it, right? Daniel is not with the guys. Dan is kind of on the fence. Jonathan is on the opposite side of Zach. Ty and Zach are kind of together, but the guys are not really a united front. The guys are not really a united front, and they're taking shots at each other. So it does benefit the ladies that the guys are going after one another. So like if another guy wins an HOH and it's not Zach, they'll probably either want to put Zach up or put him through the back door. Most likely through the back door, because I said this yesterday and I said this last week. Zach is not a front door kind of guy, because if you put Zach on the block, he's gonna raise hell. I mean, if Zach even catches wind that he's gonna be the back door, he's still gonna raise hell, but he'll raise more hell if you try to put him through the front door. So I picked Zach in my prediction to win. And that was against all logic, because I said to myself, there's 2 possible sides of how a narcissist can go. They can be like charming and cunning and convincing, or they can be like abrasive like he is and controlling. So he obviously went on the other side of narcissism. And oh, that was one of the worst picks I could have ever made, but it is what it is. I also have Santina and Ty in my final 3, so maybe one of them. Maybe one of them, or possibly both of them, might even find a way to get there. I don't know, but I don't believe in Zach at all anymore. I don't believe in Zach at all. Ty needs to win something as well and stop the little showmance. The showmance is weird. The showmance is weird to me, because they kissed each other, they hugged up with each other, and then they keep trying to pry game out of each other, and they're both lying to each other. So it's almost like a uh, I hate to use this as an example, but it almost kind of reminds me of like a Kyle and Alyssa type of thing, where they each have their own stuff going on game wise, and they're coming together to hook up, but they're not sharing anything about game strategy and alliances with each other. So it's starting to look more and more like this showmance was more for game purposes than them really being into each other like that. But like I always say, time will tell. So moving forward, this is what we have going on. Jonathan is very mad. That's a good comparison. Jonathan is very mad at Zach going forward because Zach took out his friend. So there's a clear line in the sand there. Jonathan is going to want Zach out. Let's see. I think Hope is gonna side towards wanting Zach out as well. Dan sounds like he's leaning towards that. Let me see. Kuzi was already there. Santina was already there. I think that Zach has to win at this point. I think that anytime Zach doesn't win, unless the winner is tie, I think it's a high possibility for Zach to go on the block or for Zach to be the target. They might not put him on the block right away, but I think Zach will be in the backdoor discussion heavy if he doesn't win HOH. Heavy anytime he doesn't win HOH. Nick Shorts told me that she thinks he's in a Michael type situation, and I agree. Michael from BB24. Like he has to win everything. He's got to win those HOHs or POVs, or he's going home. Yeah, John is not feeling him, and people like John. That's the thing. People like John more than they like Zach. People who are listening to Zach are not listening because they like Zach. They're listening because he feels powerful. And this is what I'm saying about narcissists. I've dealt with them in real life, and people follow them more out of fear than out of respect or love. And I think that the people who are listening to him have thus far been fearful of him, Santina and Dan. It's like, what are going to be the repercussions that we're going to get from not doing things the way that Zach wants to do them? And I liked the fact that Roberto was willing to call him out. I like the fact that Santina was willing to stand up to him and be like, no matter what kind of hissy fit you throw, I'm still not going to be voting your way. You know, that's just where I'm throwing my vote. Although she didn't quite say why. She kind of just said it's going to be a throwaway vote. So she didn't 100% stand on that. But either way, I'm glad that she let him know, like, I'm not voting the way that you're trying to control me and tell me that I have to vote. I don't like that. I didn't like that conversation last week where he was like, I'm trying to tell you how to play the game. I'm like, come on, Zach. Zach is dominating all these storylines so far, and I'm so tired of it. Like, I can't wait until he's out of the house, honestly. And that's a funny thing to say about one of my picks, but the way that he moves is just not for me. It's just not for me. And I think that's pretty much it. I guess I'll just end this by talking about who I think is in good standing. Let's see. It's hard to say, but I think Dan is in a pretty decent spot. I think Jonathan's doing pretty well. I think Santina's in a good spot. I think there's several of them that are kind of in middle-ish. Kuzi, Anika, Claudia, um, Shania. Zach is on the bottom. Zach is on the bottom. Ty, I don't know. Ty's game could go either way. Like if I think that for Ty, he's not in control of if Zach stays in his house, and I feel like I don't know. Like I feel like if they decide that Zach's gonna go and they tell him, he's not gonna go around like Jonathan and be like, "Yo, we gotta save my boy Zach." He's gonna be like, "You know what, Zach? The whole house is against you, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I wish you the best." I don't feel like Zach is gonna. I don't feel like Ty is gonna hold himself onto this anchor. I could be wrong, because look at Hope volunteering for himself to go on the block. But either way, that's my thought. I think that Ty would distance himself if needed and when needed. Uh, yeah, I guess that's about it for my recap. And thank y'all for tuning in. And I will be back next Tuesday. Just like I was saying on my last recap, I'm not going to be able to recap Wednesday's episodes, but I'm definitely going to try every Tuesday and Thursday. But if I have to pick only one day out of the three, it will always be Thursdays because Thursday is eviction night. So I hope all y'all have a good night. Have a great weekend. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing any lives while I'm away. I might not. I'm definitely going to be taking video footage, but I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be uploading anything. It depends. It depends on the time and the energy that I have, but we'll see. And if I don't speak to you guys this weekend, have a safe and good weekend. And I hope you're able to recharge and prepare yourself for the next week ahead. Talk to you soon.